Bill Nye Saves the World? Or more like Bill Nye the Salty Guy? Psh, yeah. Sup, girl? Welcome back, everybody, for the third time to the Faith and Whatever podcast. We are on episode 58. We are the show that could, can, and does sometimes. So, this week for our pop topic, we are discussing Bill Nye Saving the World. We are all avid lovers of science on the Faith and Whatever podcast. In fact, I have 3 degrees, and none of them are in science.
I mean, we purchased them all for some place in Mississippi.
The Universal Life Church. Chris is working on his PhD in what? I won't tell you.
Immortality.
So we are all avid Netflix consumers. That is a big thing.
Well, were all of us fans of Bill Nye?
Are you Bill Nyeing me right now?
No.
You're totally Bill Nyeing me right now.
Were we all fans of Bill Nye the Science Guy when we were kids?
Sure. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I liked him pretty well. I remember enjoying his shows.
Shallow and pedantic.
I actually watched him in elementary school growing up. There, he was a part of our curriculum.
Your class?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Garrett was so rich that he was his science teacher.
Yeah. Garrett was Bill Nye's science teacher? Or do you ever get tired of having so much money?
Taught him everything he knows.
I overdrafted on a burger today, so I don't know how I have so much money. I have no idea.
Oh, you're at the wrong account.
My account.
Forgot to transfer money from his Swiss bank account.
Kobe beef burger.
Yeah. Well, you should stop buying $1,000 burgers, Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, as
pastrami burger.
Garrett trips on the sidewalk and just spills money everywhere.
I don't even.
Oh man, all this money is everywhere.
I'm so tired of being so rich. And Bill Nye, I'll tell you what though, he's not tired of being rich. He is raking in the dough from this current.
He's doing everything he can to make another buck. And
you brought up something pretty interesting off air, James. The idea of really the kind of the catalyst for all of this starter was his debate. It feels like his debate with the Ken Ham creationist.
Yeah, when was
idiot.
that? Like 2 years ago, a year ago?
Because kind of Bill Nye before that Ken Ham
4
debate.
years ago now.
He was big in the memes, but that was about all he was doing, right? There were just memes of him everywhere, and then all of a sudden, Bill Nye, that science guy, was going to have a debate with Ken Ham, and that seemed to kind of start everything, right, for Bill Nye.
You mean like his resurgence,
everything.
of popularity?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he's become the poster child or science man of kind of like the angry, millennial, overly critical, progressive science fan.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So as he's exposing himself to this new generation, we're kind of faced with this idea of like, what are we going to do with the scientism that he has kind of moved into, right?
Yeah.
And again,
I want to put this out here, at least representing myself here. I probably agree with Bill Nye on the vast amount of things he says, but I do not like his presentation in this show of those facts, and I don't like the way he's stereotyping and kind of just framing people on the flip side of the spectrum.
Yeah, so Bill Nye Saves the World, if you're not familiar, is a new Netflix original show that
Did we talk about the title?
Yeah.
Okay, pretty arrogant.
That's where I was going to start. So the show begins with him kind of coming in, writing in, and it's Bill Nye saves the world, Bill Nye, world saver, saving world, Bill Nye, Agent 00, Bill Nye, world saver. And so
Max Power.
Yeah. His name sounds good in your ear, and you want to touch, but you mustn't touch. Classic Simpsons did it first reference. So he introduces himself in an overly gregarious way, for sure. Somebody said it earlier that he's really bought into his own hype, right?
Yeah.
And
Bill Nye the Messiah
and the
Guy.
entire Messiah Guy. But I mean, and the whole show is sort of built on this whole thing that he is going to preach what is right and dispel all that is wrong.
Right.
And there's not a shred of humility or humbleness,
And
or
remove
even
the heretics.
And there's no exploration of ideas. Like a lot of the segments I watched, they explore a topic that Bill Nye doesn't agree with, like using sound for healing. I don't agree with any of that stuff either, but he goes in there not to hear a single shred of their propositions, not to hear any of the reason or
not
logic.
even to evaluate their claim. Just like, that was dumb. And up next,
we just show his whole
Look how
segment.
dumb people are.
Yeah. The whole segment is just him showing a guy who's yelling at a woman's stomach. They're just How
dumb was that?
Yeah, and it's the facial expressions, right, of this lady. And so this is the interesting thing, right, because it's based on an ideology that represents this scientific method where you you make a hypothesis, you weigh the hypothesis, test it, and then alter your belief based on
Alter
whatever
your
the truth
data
is.
to fit your.
Yeah.
Well,
and then rinse and repeat 2 years later.
And so
when you're wrong.
and that becomes right, and so that and I'm okay with being wrong, right? Because that's how we grow and that's how we make new discoveries and
Sure.
gain new knowledge. But there has to be something said for the lack of tact, I think, in the discussion and in the presentation, right? The thing that I do like that we've seen out of this so far is that I think it's helpful for starting conversation. I have found that to be good in terms of at least getting the ball rolling. I think it's nice to be having these discussions. And then I think he's been good at pointing. I like the idea of debunking stuff that's foolish there. So like the idea, the magnetic thing, the magnetic knee brace, right, that helps your knee. He goes on to show why it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah.
Now, maybe it's just because these episodes are early and he has time to sort of grow the product, but he doesn't turn a skeptical eye back at the scientific community. It's like he's talking about, like, here's how we do a double blind. Here's how medicine is created in the scientific community. And here's the tests we do. He also doesn't acknowledge, and I know this as being somewhat of an insider to the way research works in the academic collegiate communities, not with medicine myself, but just in general.
I'm a medicine man.
He doesn't acknowledge that even there things don't always happen ideally, that money pushes things forward, that people don't get the results they're looking for, but they try to present it as positively as they can because they don't want to upset the donations that have been given to them to do studies.
Yeah.
Like the medicine community is not a perfect community. I like the ideals of it. I buy into the ideals of it, but the ideals are not lived up to. And he doesn't turn that critical eye towards our community, which deserves it just as much.
Well, did you see his Constitution thing? I think it tells you everything. At least I feel like I need to know.
Lay it
about
on us,
that.
Big Doug.
Do it.
So he was on TV complaining about federal scientific funding being cut and said it was protected by the U.S. Constitution. This is a quote. He said, "And it is interesting to note, I think Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution refers to the progress of science and the useful arts. Useful arts in the 18th century usage would be what we call engineering or city planning or architecture." So he's saying that the Constitution protects and calls for federal science funding.
Right.
This is what Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution actually says. "To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for a limited time to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries."
It's a patent law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is not at all what he's saying.
So how did he connect the two? Did he explain?
He probably never even read that.
He doesn't have to.
It's totally out of context. It's not what it actually means. It's like, for a guy who says he's all about science and scientific process, this is just, I mean, come on. James, if you had a student in one of your classes cite a source and use it
If I tried to do that when I was in one of your classes.
I mean, that's exactly. I basically, I hear somebody who didn't do any reading. They just Wikipedia'd something. That's what it sounds like, No offense to Wikipedia, but it just sounds like somebody garnered a piece of information from somebody else who garnered it from a piece of from somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, and it becomes misinterpreted severely as it gets passed on that
It's
way.
like it's hard to double check the Constitution.
Right. Every time you cite
when
a
it's
piece
so
of
boring.
literature,
Yeah, it's hard
now,
to find. It's in a box.
it's completely an important thing to cite your literature, which is what he did. But when you cite your literature, you better go read it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to like a show about science and like the idea of debunking things, but I don't want to be made feel stupid if I don't agree exactly with Bill Nye.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't think the show will last because of that. Because he feels like, and many people with his kind of skeptical outlook on science and life, and they think that 95% of people think like them,
Right.
and the 5% are
To
just
be burned at the stake.
uneducated people that no one even would want
I
to
love steak.
relate to. So you're gonna get because even the show, the episode that we watched, he had this panel on, and there was some disagreement within the panel, not agreeing exactly with Bill Nye's perspective, and they weren't acknowledged and they weren't necessarily engaged in. It was just brushed over and moved on.
Never
And
lets
so-
his guests get a word in either.
Yeah, he always changes. He always cuts their thoughts in half. And I said this a
I
bunch
hate
of
it when he
times.
does that, don't you,
Yeah, I
James?
know, right? I said this before we
Seriously
recorded a
drives me
few
nuts.
times, but I want to say it here on camera. I feel like we're seeing the birth of the left's Glenn Beck, right? The guy that speaks into the camera or the microphone a bunch of like just sort of this is true because we've done studies and no studies have been done, and it's pushing just an agenda instead of a critical conversation, right?
Yeah, preaching to the choir mostly.
Right, about things that just affirm the choir, even if they're not actually well-researched things. Like for a science show, they didn't do a whole lot of study on that one topic with the Constitution, did they? And you noticed, Chris, maybe you can give us the report on it or the summary of it, that there's actually quite an interesting reaction from what should be his choir.
Yeah, I was reading on Reddit's atheism board, and even they were very critical. And I don't say even they. This is, I am saying, because they're a group of, I mean, I don't want to piss off an entire subreddit.
Yeah.
No.
Don't want to make my
Reddit, we are not trying to make enemies.
At least
Yeah.
they'll be talking about us.
But I mean, these
Yeah,
are people that one would expect to be, pretty.
Skeptics.
No, I mean, kind of favorable to Bill Nye's positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd expect them to jump on his bandwagon very quickly.
Yeah, and even a lot of them were having a hard time with the cringe fest that was this show.
What were they saying? What were their complaints?
I think
Give us the best comment.
My favorite was, I apologize to the Christian right. You were correct. The slippery slope is real.
Yeah. And
Someone
that's
else called it weaponized cringe.
Slippery slope, as in critical thinking turning into.
This is just so horrible.
Yeah, I mean, just letting like your principles slide into a fundamentalism, right? Which is what we saw with certain like media outlets of the right. It seems like the funny thing is this is the Remember when Trump was basically, we all knew he was being elected. We were right there. We knew the future, and the conversation going around among the left was, we did this to ourselves. We did this by not respecting the right. We did this by scapegoating and stereotyping and never letting the right have a conversation with us. I mean, remember there was all the mea culpas out there.
Mm-hmm. No, it was just misogyny.
Well,
That's why Trump got elected.
Hashtag patriarchy
seeing
for
this
life.
show come out right now feels like that conversation led nowhere, because this is even worse than what we did before. This is even more condescending, even more. Look, I'm a person who is left leaning, and I watch this and I'm like, oh gosh, this guy's representing
it's
me.
frustrating because it could be such a good tool there. He's got such a good platform because the dude still is Bill freaking Nye. And
Bill Nye the Salty Guy.
Well, and so this is, I like the setup of the show. I think I actually might be in
concept.
the minority here. I like the idea of having a panel. I like that it seems he borrowed from Bill Maher, borrowed from Glenn Beck, and borrowed a little bit from Larry Wilmore.
It's also just like a Neil deGrasse Tyson show on Nat Geo.
Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson's way harder for me to follow, though. If I'm honest, I don't think I'm quite smart enough to get at his level of things. But it is interesting though that the whole overly critical thing is making its way into what is supposed to be a little bit more objective. I think in its presentation there, it's supposed to be. It's not just supposed to be objective about its findings, but also its presentation of said findings. You're not supposed to attach the emotion to anything in the hypothesis.
Yeah, but the show's called Bill Nye Saves the World.
Right. I never once noticed a place where Bill Nye was exploring opinion. He was just presenting what is solid fact, obviously, and everybody who doesn't.
He was
think this
preaching.
is dumb. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even preachers can do better than that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Not many. Most maybe.
Sometimes.
I think
don't.
the ratings on this thing are going to be garbage. There's too much good stuff on YouTube.
Well, so that was my other
science.
thought. That was my last question that I wanted to ask in
Right.
this segment is, do you think this can compete with, dude, How Stuff Works is on YouTube. Like, you can Google
Smarter
anything,
Every Day.
Smarter Every Day. Like, there are
Yeah.
these people that have mastered the idea of this unbiased presentation.
How much the guy put his arm in a vacuum?
Yeah, but what this has that
I see
those
Russians
don't.
press
Those-
stuff in hydraulic presses every day.
This
Science.
is a show pretending to be like one of those, but what it's really doing is creating a constituency.
Well, the
It's
thing is,
it's creating a movement based on an ideology, based on a certain political, social perspective.
It feels like the first birth child of the left echo chamber.
the thing is the YouTube channels that are popular
It's
that
an
deal with
afterbirth.
science
Oh, jeez.
have a balanced feel. You know, they're
Making me
probably
pro-choice in that case.
some
Sorry, I
no,
totally
no,
spoke
Hard
over you.
left.
fine. To some of those YouTube
I Bill
channels,
Nye you.
Bill Nye.
Bill Nye.
You got Bill Nye.
that's very
And we
good.
just invented that.
Patent pending.
According to the Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably opinionated, kind of overly critical YouTube channels about science, but they don't get a lot of following. because
And nor
people
should
find
they.
them
They
annoying.
deserve to be chastised just as much as this Bill Nye show does.
So it probably won't. I mean, is there a Metacritic review on it already? Is that?
That's fine. Let's
You
find
know, that
it.
seems like the kind of thing we should have looked up before we started.
Well, we can have our own Metacritic review.
We don't
It's-
claim to do
it's,
research.
I never claimed to be a scientist.
63%.
That's just a guy who hurts himself in the
That's a pretty
garage.
decent score.
User score 2.1.
Ooh.
Generally
Based on
unfavorable.
40 ratings.
Well, it's doing better than Amy Schumer's.
60. Dude, that was a train wreck. That's one of the only her leather special is one of the only specials I've actually taken the time to downvote.
2.1 out of 10. Oh, that's brutal.
The fun is all over the place. Entertainment value is instantly deflated. Nye appears to have taken to heart the concept of trying to provide a small beacon of light rather than just cursing the darkness. Wow. Oh, okay, that's CNN Brian Lowry. Never mind. Yeah, so, I don't know. 63 is pretty good, but it's only based on 5 critics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got one mild review, and the one mild review was from Pittsburgh Post-Gazette Rob Owen. Just not that entertaining show. While the format is geared to adult, the content is too simple to be of interest. That I agree with there. For a kid who might try to watch all the talking heads will be a bore. So that's the interesting thing. He's trying to aim towards like young adult millennials, but he's not talking about anything that YouTube can't explain in 7 minutes or less.
With less angst, even.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
It's
then-
weird to see an angsty old man.
That rap on gender, like I was waiting for them just to make fun of themselves and like laugh about it, but they were like serious.
Dude,
like
you're a pansexual wood sprite.
like DJ
Seahorse.
Seahorse. Like there
'Cause they
was
can be
no
both
joke.
genders.
Like what? Why? I don't.
Or because the male carries the eggs, maybe.
It was yeah. I guess so.
But I watched that guy take off his pants, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
Why- and then
Like,
why did he take off his
Yeah,
pants? It was
I
never
just
even
didn't
addressed.
need to.
And he had dinosaur underwear on. Like
I saw one of his videos had like 16,000 thumbs downs and 200 thumbs up. on YouTube.
Wow. 16,000 thumbs down?
Did you learn gay in college? What? What is that like? What an insult that is to my junior high and high school students who already know what gay is, who have
Yeah.
good friends that are gay.
I wonder if one of the issues is that his marketing team is not made up of millennials, or they're just so far in their own bubble that they don't even know how to present.
Yeah,
It was-
content.
if that's supposed to be geared towards adults of any age, it is the most patronizing.
But I was not geared towards
condescending.
kids. What was that part about her vagina wanting to have its own voice or something?
Yeah.
What would
So that's a
kids-
thing.
No, she was saying that she makes up her own voices for her vagina.
Oh right. Okay. That
So
was
she
weird.
talks to it.
Yeah, and then there was another
And it
part that we're
talks
not going
back.
to say on the show because we can't even say it
I
about what true love might entail. Like why? I don't. That's not a kid show.
mean, but that's not wrong. So anyway, any last thoughts? Are we gonna finish the rest of the season as a staff?
Nope.
Oh, no.
I vote yes. All right. So if you've got any comments, let us know in the comment section below, as that would be the obvious choice there. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much to our 144 viewers. We love you guys very much.
Love you.
We will talk to you soon. Thanks, Mom. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you want to keep watching more excellent Faith in Whatever videos, you can look right here. If you want to subscribe to our page, you can click right here. And also, we have a link to our Patreon. We would love for you to go over to that site and be part of the excellent and awesome community that we're building there. Thanks so much for stopping by.